you didn't intend on filming so many movies in Mississippi at the time. I asked you what drew you back, and you said the stories. And the fact is that, Mississippi has a lot of important stories, not just about our history, but really about humankind.
In terms of scale, The Wilderness Road and Tales of the Natchez Trace, probably the most ambitious of the projects of the 12 Westerns.
How's he gonna do this?
When you first heard that I was gonna make 12 Westerns in 12 months, what was your thought?
I knew I wanted to be part of it.
More opportunities to solve problems.
Video game character when they're in their waiting mode.
What maniac would do that to himself?
Oh, damn. This is the project of either a madman or a visionary or a combination of both.
Trying to pull all this off with not a Hollywood budget, that was the crazy part.
Yes, but that's why I liked it. He run.
Why? All of this is just nuts. I mean, it really is.
I stumbled on the story of the Harp brothers and Samuel Mason. Never heard about it before. It's kind of forgotten American history. But some people would say that Big Harp and Little Harp are America's first serial killers. And they just seemed way too fascinating to not do a movie about. Add to that the story of Samuel Mason, another outlaw who roamed the Natchez Trace and the Wilderness Road during that time. And I thought, I've got kind of an epic movie here. A movie where the good guys, the protagonists, are actually the bad guys.
The Trace, from Natchez to Nashville, first walked by animals, then the natives, then came the settlers, and with them, the bandits.
The Wilderness Road, I thought, was probably the most ambitious of your scripts. It was huge.
The stories of the Natchez Trace I grew up hearing about, and so the Wilderness Road was a very exciting project for me.
At first, it was kind of like a massive 3-hour Kill Bill Volume 1, Volume 2 thing that I was going to split in two. And it had little kind of vignettes alongside the story of the Harps and Samuel Mason about people like John Morrell and Meriwether Lewis, some other historical figures that had played little parts in the story of this famous road that went from Natchez to Nashville. Ultimately, it became 2 films, actually, The Wilderness Road and Tales of the Natchez Trace, the story of the Harp brothers and Samuel Mason, and then all those other fascinating tales together in kind of a Ballad of Buster Scruggs style anthology film.
The scope is just so big on those, and even when you talk about maybe going back and putting those together as a single film, I still have a hard time imagining what that would look like, just because that's such a big story.
With Samuel Mason, you let me develop that character, and you gave me nearly a year with the script.
I came up with a story outline, but I actually didn't write any of the scripts. I assigned different writers to work on the script, one for each chapter of the story.
I haven't seen the script in full form, but I've seen the movie. Without the card coming up, chapter, if it just went from one scene to the next, I don't think anyone would pick up that 6 writers wrote it, and I think that's an accomplishment.
I'm really excited about the Natchez Trace because the research that we got to do on the characters as we're writing for them. And I had a friend of my dad's who was a retired FBI agent. He taught at the FBI Academy. He taught firearms his entire career. And I called him up and I said, Bill, I said, I know what a gunfight in 1860 looks like, but what does a gunfight in 1799 look like? And this guy, off the top of his head, started schooling me about the Natchez Trace and the David Bowie sandbar fight. and what it was like to use those type of weapons.
See how tough I am to chaw. I hadn't had a fight in 2 days, and I am spelling for some exercise.
This one took place in the 1790s. I had never done that period. So I got to carry flintlocks and a tomahawk and wear a tricorn hat and had a ponytail and the whole deal.
They dressed in a completely different way at that time. They shot different guns. They had different hats. They didn't use the same wagons. They didn't even use the same saddles on their horses. And authenticity is something that matters to me in movies.
My thoughts were, be as ambitious as you want to with the script. You can always pull it back a little bit. But if you wrote something that wasn't ambitious, it's just that. It will never be any better.
We had the help of this guy named John Spain, a historian who really understands that period super well. And he even let us borrow some of the guns that were used in the film.
Finding wardrobe for the late 1700s, early 1800s is very difficult. It just doesn't exist. Just certain websites or outlets have that. And of course, we had Marty who donated a lot of it. If it hadn't been for that, we couldn't have made it because most people couldn't find their wardrobe.
I had a couple producers who were working with me to find some of these elements, like a keel boat and some of the locations. And it shows how daunting independent film can be, because these people ended up kind of approaching me and saying, hey, unless we scale this thing way down, we're not going to be part of it.
What's the correct gun? What's how to build this pillory correctly? And then you had the little claw that Kirkendall had. There was a lot to be done to pull off the Wilderness Road.
I told them what is really my philosophy with making movies. If I dreamed it, if it's something that I want to try to pull off, I'm going to try to pull it off until there are no possible options. Ultimately, we had to part ways, but that was a good learning experience because not everybody sees producing and making movies the same way. I first met Damon, as I kind of meet a lot of people in my film life, when he wanted to be an extra.
Impregnation by ammunition. Son of a...
Over the years, he went from being an extra to playing small speaking roles, little cameos in my movies.
The balcony is closed, ma'am.
Until we hit Bastards Crossing and Texas Red, and then he started really being more of a producer. He was my right-hand man in Mississippi. And I gave him an incredible challenge when it came to the Wilderness Road. I told him, I want you to be the main producer for this film. Other than me, I don't want this to say associate producer Damon Burks. I want it to say producer Damon Burks.
In my case, the role of a producer on a low-budget movie is to wear as many hats as possible. And it started with location.
It starts in Kentucky, it ends in Mississippi. But to find the locations that were right for the period, we filmed in Tennessee, Mississippi, Louisiana, and even went to Arkansas.
The main one was Davies Manor in Bartlett, Tennessee, which is actually has a manor home and some log cabins from the early 1800s. From there, I went up to Cave in Rock in Illinois. That was actually one of the locations in the movie. So I traveled all the way up there to visit that location, and had to work through the state of Illinois and fill out a lot of paperwork to get approval, and we didn't know if it was going to happen or not. Eventually, they did approve us to film there, but at that point, it was already too late. Dalton Brewer had been looking for an alternate location. He found a location, Indian Rock Cave in Arkansas, which worked out just great.
Little Harp was by far the most challenging character I've ever played. He is, to me, the essence of evil. The things that he does, the murder, it's not for any financial gain. It's not really even for power. It seems to be for pure pleasure. Embodying that character was difficult. It was a challenge because I had to think like that for most of October and November. And I remember the last couple weeks of the shoot, I just felt like I'm ready to shed this character because it was heavy. I kind of thought about The Wilderness Road as a Rob Zombie Western, like the Devil's Rejects set in the early 1800s. And that kind of shows you what we were trying to do with Big Harp and Little Harp, showing these guys that are pretty despicable roaming around. And that's kind of how I see the history of the bandits along the Natchez Trace.
As the cinematographer on The Wilderness Road, it's my job to come up with ideas on a visual approach, a visual language. We have these murderous serial killers, and the things they do are just kind of twisted. And so as I'm reading the script, I'm thinking I could see using Dutch crop, which is something a little bit more twisted. And it can feel quite disruptive if you just throw it into the wrong spot. But if you do it consistently, it can be done well.
I killed your child. What are you gonna do about it?
What's mine is yours, brother.
He was so quiet, but then when he became Big Harp, he just changed immediately.
Dalton was wonderful. When he auditioned for Big Harp, I think that he was just a shoo-in immediately. He's one of those taped auditions you see where you're just like, this is the guy. And it's going to be really hard for anyone to convince me otherwise.
Keep that thing quiet. Can't a man get no peace in his own camp? One day one of them regulators is gonna hear that thing screaming, and we all gonna hang for it.
I had no idea what he was like as a person. But as we met on set and got to experience filming for 6 weeks together, I really got to know one of the most wonderful human beings I've ever met in my life. And we were playing brothers on screen, evil brothers. But I would really consider him a brother of mine.
Me and him hit it off, but he was the type would hit it off with anybody.
And he'd be on scene and start singing to us, just impromptu and things.
Muéstrame el camino que yo voy. Despacito. Quiero respirar porque despacito.
Just a lot of special memories that I have of Dalton.
But he was just a big hoot to be around.
Me and Dalton with the really climactic scene there, that was intense. We knew we had to get that scene. We were losing light. We had built, of course, we both built this scene up in our heads for weeks ahead of time. You know, we were really looking forward to this, and it just all culminates in that one moment.
Hello, Moses.
If he dies, let him die. If not, deliver him to Danville.
When you get that involved emotionally into a scene,
Wake up! Weren't you conscious when I cut your head?
he really does stick with you a long time.
Moses! Ain't what he's saying enough?
And he was someone who always had your back, was always trying to help, always trying to be supportive. And it breaks my heart that we've lost him since then.
Big teddy bear, gentle giant, loved everyone, everybody loved him. He's kind of like a father figure to folks around. He was looking out for people constantly.
Their memory lasts forever in the film.
Well, the most challenging scene that I had was when I rode a horse naked.
And the next time I'm punished,
That horse
mark my words,
started bucking,
I'll be guilty of sin. Ha!
and you don't want to be on a horse in a saddle naked when it's bucking. I've learned that the hard way.
When I first met Creek, he had really not done any acting. And he was just getting into it. I mean, when he played the role of the tow truck driver in Portraits and Private Eyes, I remember how stiff he was.
So, what were you hunting?
We were. Birds. It was birds.
Birds, huh?
Huh?
And where are your guns?
New type of hunting. No guns.
Oh, yeah?
He had a great look. I mean, this is truly a character actor face that Creek has. You see him and it evokes a reaction.
Well, Jack Elam was a big character, especially with his eye. And when we talked about it, you know, it kind of gave me that crazy look. And can I say one thing about Jack Elam? His real name is William Scott Elam. They called him Jack. Well, my real name is William Scott.
And I think so far of all the actors who've kind of evolved with me over the years through my independent film process, he's been the most successful. And I couldn't be more happy for him.
You have a big totem pole. And you got the A-list actors. Tom Cruise, you know, he's one of them. Then you got the B-list, C-list, and it keeps on going down all the way to the Z-list. I feel like when I started out in my career, and especially with Portraits and Private Eyes, I was about 2 or 3 notches in the dirt.
You are now the most famous bandit.
But I feel like I'm up to about a H level, if you really want to know. But my goal is, hey, hold on, I'm trying to talk. To be an A-list actor, I know I will never get there. I know that. But I have the goal to get there.
And as I got ready to cast the role of Samuel Mason, a Revolutionary War hero turned famous outlaw, there was no one to play the role but Creek Wilson.
To do a scene with Creek was, I mean, when I heard that, it just made my day. Killing, not slaughtering like them.
A damn lie! Goddamn lie. I don't kill for the sake of killing. Not like those despicable
That
sons of Tories.
Took a little work to get into the terror in that character at that moment where, okay, this could be it for me.
And he had to create this character arc for Samuel Mason that starts at the beginning of the movie and goes all the way to the end, which is a very different challenge than coming in and playing a 1 or 2 day role.
It wasn't mud, it was quicksand. That's what I tell everybody, and that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
All right, Operation Get Creek out.
You was filming, and you told me I had to go across a creek to get up on a rise on the other side because you was going to shoot my scene. And I started tiptoeing across. Well, all of a sudden, I just started sinking, and I sunk to my waist. I had those moccasins tied up all the way up to my knees, so there wasn't no getting those moccasins off. And when I got stuck and I hollered up, and it was like, oh, he can wait a few minutes. You know, we're filming a scene.
You holding on, Creek?
All
right.
Stuck.
Put it back. Put it back.
Big time.
Do appreciate you jumping in there and trying to help me. But when it's all said and done, Dorsey Carson is the hero of the story because he's the one who called 911.
Seeing everybody scrambling to save Creek, I realized that he's going to die here if he's counting on us. That we are ill-equipped to deal with a creek in a creek where he was stuck. And so I had to walk away and had to walk a good piece before I finally got cell service to call 911. And then they weren't quite sure how to get there.
But you know, the next day, you're out looking for my knife that I lost, you and Bandit gets in the quicksand. Oh, you was ready to help Bandit right off the bat. You know why you made me wait. So we know who was closer to you, Bandit.
So there's this one scene in The Wilderness Road where my character, Little Harp, gets hanged. Spoiler alert.
I looked at Little Harp as being a coward. Little Harp would have kicked and fought and everything in him to keep that noose from going around his neck. I was hoping that that's the way it would be shot, but it turned out it didn't get to get shot that way. I think it was a logistical problem with doing something like that.
Because I wanted it to really look like I was choking. I wanted it to be disturbing. My concept was that we would do 2 shots. One focused on my feet, with me sort of hanging on a pull-up bar and dangling the feet. The other one would be a shot that would be about like torso up. I'd be standing on apple boxes. There'd be kind of people around me blocking that. And I would have a noose around my neck. Not a harness like you would do, you know, in the professional world, but a real noose around my neck.
84, take 2.
The rope was going up over a tree limb and there was someone holding it.
Action.
The idea is that I could lean into the rope to my own comfort. Take one, you know, it looked terrible. My face is just contorting and I was even able to stop and dive for a few seconds before we called cut. But then of course, as cinematographers often do, we said, well, I think we should go a second time. This time I'm going all out. This is the take.
Oh! There go. Cut. You okay, dude? You okay?
What happened?
I don't know. You were acting and something happened.
You went a little too far where you
it's like you had too much pressure on.
blacked out or
Pass
something.
out. Same thing that happened.
Did you black out?
Yeah.
Was that in the middle of a take?
Yeah, dude. Weird. We cut off oxygen to your brain. It looked like you were just acting. And then you fell. And we rushed in.
And I was out for, I don't know, 10 seconds or something. I thought I was just having a dream. They wake me up and I'm looking at them. Where am I? Why am I on the ground? Do you realize that you just passed out in the middle of the hanging scene? And my very next reaction, and anyone who knows me well would not be surprised by this, I said,
All right. That was weird. What it look like? Did it sell? Watch the playback, man. Check the playback out.
Did it sell?
it brings something out of someone you've never seen before. You give anyone on the street a lead role in a movie, I guarantee you, they all of a sudden you're gonna see a different human being.
I knew it was the most important film to you, so I really wanted to come through for you. I wanted this role real bad, and then I got it, and I'm like, oh crap, now I gotta come through.
The original plan was to film Heart of the Gun in, I think, May or June of 2020, but after COVID hit, that completely changed, especially because it was going to be one of our SAG productions, and SAG wasn't approving anything at that point. I already had a lot of my cast. I had Amber Rose Mason, who ended up playing Sarah in the final film, but I had an actor and filmmaker friend of mine named Miles Doliak playing Travers. And when we pushed it, the opportunity came to basically recast. And I'd been working with John throughout the 12 and just already seeing him get better and better, playing Sheriff Bob and Deputy's Wife. Then he really stepped it up on an emotional level in some scenes from Counting Bullets. And I remember thinking while making Counting Bullets with him, I think he would make a really good Travers.
He has ups and downs, and trying to play him and still maintain strength but still be vulnerable in those different scenes and actually bring myself to tears was very challenging.
The nice thing about John is he doesn't feel like an actor who came out of Hollywood. Similar to like someone like Sam Elliott, he feels like the real deal. And that's something, you might be able to hire the best actor, but when you put them out in the wilderness and you put them on a horse and you put a gun in their hand, if it doesn't sell, I don't care if they can do Shakespeare. They can't do that.
I got better at it through that movie. And I was a better actor at the end of that movie than I was when we started that movie. Just, it was draining. There were times when I was just like spent.
Do you know why she left?
Heart of the Gun was the most personal of all of the scripts for me, because when I wrote it in 2014, I was actually channeling a lot of pain and anger that I'd had coming out of probably my most serious relationship to date. And so I was really putting all of that into this script about this guy who's looking for his wife who left him, and he's sort of a very bitter person.
Here. Read it to me.
I took a break from it for 5 years, and I was able to come back to it and actually see some of what didn't work, and then come up with a pretty major twist, which I won't spoil, which actually was not part of the original screenplay. But something just clicked with that time, and I was like, oh, this is actually what happens at the ending of the movie.
Who I would have never thought I'd be the owner of a bordello. But McCabe was a fun role, and it's the first time I'd ever filmed at night, all night. We finished about 3 a.m., I think. But to have the opportunity to play against Peter Sherayko, you know, and Texas Jack Vermillion from Tombstone, oh my gosh.
Look what I found.
Men, buy this gentleman a drink on the house. Taking him out of the saloon, that was a lot of fun.
For some reason, the lines were very difficult for me to get a grip on, as well as her backstory of where she fit into this whole mess of stuff. And I remember specific directions.
Leave me alone.
But this is my room. And you're like, no, 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 act like a teenager. This is your room.
Take the money and get out of here.
And I was like, Travis, this sucks right now, but fine. I'll be around if you need me. I loved the role because I loved being around everybody else again. And I was like, yes. And every time I go to a set, and specifically your sets, it's like, oh, I'm home.
And I got to have a fight scene with Jay Pickett in a freezing-ass creek in Young, Arizona in December.
Give yourself up!
Jay was a pro. I mean, he was just very professional, very encouraging to all the younger actors. What a great guy.
I'm sure he's already left here.
Don't leave this room till morning. Stage will be in and I'll make sure you're on it. You have a chance at redemption, Abigail. Take it.
Lou Ferrigno had been cast in this role. Dalton was going to drive out from Arkansas just to be one of Lou Ferrigno's henchmen, and Lou bailed on us a week prior to shooting.
That's quite the assumption, traveler.
When Ferrigno bailed, we cast Dalton in that role.
What makes you think we want a woman around here?
So one night after Dalton had shot his stuff, we're watching the dailies, and Jay was there, and he's watching Dalton's performance. And he says, is that the role that you were going to have Ferrigno play? And we're like, yeah. And he goes, Ferrigno never could have done it like that. He said, this guy is awesome.
So somehow, in all of the months since March of 2020 that we continued to make these films, no one had gotten sick on our sets. It helped that we were shooting outdoors with small groups, but to our knowledge, no one got infected with COVID. Then we're making the last of the 12, and we're in the middle of it, and then we're in the middle of nowhere. And we were requiring people to get tests before they showed up. Someone showed up, and their test was late. And then they got it after we'd already been filming with them for a day or two, and it was positive. So they didn't get infected on our set, but they showed up infected. This was a very scary situation. Are we gonna have to shut down completely? What are we gonna do? And I think we handled it like we did most crazy situations during the 12 in a really smart way. We said, okay, we got to wrap this character as soon as possible. And it was fortunate enough that that character was going to die that day, and we just filmed it in a little bit of a tweaked way so he didn't have to be around anyone else during that filming. I think we all masked up just to be extra careful, and we filmed the rest of the day, and that was actually another stroke of luck. That was our weekend. So we broke and we all got tested. Everyone came up negative, except for one person, our gaffer, I think it was, who had to stay home a couple more days, and then he took a second test and came up negative, and he could join us. So it was like one of those near disasters, but we avoided it. And it's pretty incredible that we made, while the rest of the industry shut down, we continued to make films all year long. And even though there was that one infection that was brought to our sets, not a single person got sick on our sets the entire year.
I was getting kind of melancholy that it was going to be over. Yeah, I didn't want it to end. It was like, shit, we're almost done. The final shot was an insert of Amber. It was like, shot it, said cut. We were all looking at each other, and you said, that's a wrap. And I'm going to cry again now.
We just quietly kind of went around and hugged each other. And you could feel the weight of what we'd done. And I remember my favorite moment from that, after hugging everybody up there, is I came down the street, walked right by here, and Bandit my dog had been in the saloon. And he came out to greet me as if he knew also that it was over with. And I remember I pushed my face up against his, and I said, we did it.
I'm emotional now. It was a fantastic year and a wonderful experience to work with you and John in most of these films, and thank you.
New Year's Day, you were back to work editing.
The work wasn't over after we wrapped the films. I mean, actually, in some ways, the hardest work had begun. I had committed to releasing these movies one a month in 2021. So it was dive straight on into post-production.
Projects would overlap because we're trying to, you're trying to complete post-sound while I'm trying to do an edit on a different one, and we're going back and forth reviewing cuts on almost completed films. So yeah, it was definitely a juggling act trying to remember where we were in all the projects as it pushed through.
So you're still doing post-production, you're still dealing with budgets, you're still dealing with composers and scoring and editing.
The music is so important. I was lucky enough to connect with some incredible composers. Christopher Hart, he did so many of the scores in Mississippi. Robert Sizemore did a couple of them. Elley out in California, I met her through John Mars, and she ended up scoring a couple of them. And just like I wanted each of the 12 to be different, I wanted each of the 12 scores to be different.
Having just completed the Hans Zimmer masterclass, I really wanted to get involved in something, and I had no idea where that was going to take me. And I kept sending you things, and you were very polite and said thank you, and I didn't know it was going to lead into 5 films.
I'm really blown away by these musicians and what they were able to create scores that are, to me, on a high professional level in a short amount of time, and none of them sound alike.
My job is to serve the film. It's not to, wow, listen how beautiful that is. I want people to sit and listen to the soundtrack as they're watching the film and not really pay attention to it, but oh, that really enhances what's going on. You would give me, like with Counting Bullets, it was more of a spaghetti western kind of feel. And I tried some of those elements in it, and it didn't exactly work the way I wanted it to, and then I tried something else, and I'd send it to you. And you'd say, I think maybe a little less over here, a little something else, I'm not sure what it is over here. And so I would just adapt to it and kind of figure out what you want to have there, and then I'd kind of steer it that direction and make it so it's easier for you to listen to.
You would have an idea in your head, and then you were like, if you want to see another cut, feel free to try it, and we'll give it a look. So you were always open to that collaboration you were always very detailed with the notes you provided and being on top of those productions, and especially as a writer, you knew exactly what the stories needed and what coverage you had.
The post-production process, you don't have the camaraderie that you have on set. You're not sitting there having fun creating. You're sitting at a desk and pounding out the edit or sound mixing the movies, as I had to do most of the sound mixing on the films. And so it was a very tough year, and honestly, I barely got through it.
You were producing, then you were, forget the writing, directing. Sometimes you were riding the camera as a cinematographer. Sometimes you were taking sound. And then let's not even talk about the fact that you got in front of the camera and then was an actor. But the business end of it is a real pain in the ass, because you got to deal with bankers. You got to make sure people get paid. More than that, you got to deal with unions.
Because you were like a studio head. You're doing post-production on films that had been completed. You're doing call sheets and putting together, actors, coaching actors for the films we're working on now. Meanwhile, you're scouting locations, you're casting, and you're raising money for movies that are coming up. And in many cases, we're actually writing the scripts for the movie we're going to do next month. So it was like I would wake up in the morning and you would already be on your computer or on the phone. And when I would go to bed at night, you would still be working.
You was aging like the president when you was doing that, man. Like, for real. Like, did you notice? Like, you like you wasn't sleeping, but you was like a head coach in the NFL. Every day you got to prep for practice, you got to prep for a game, you got to prep for drills, and you got it done.
Again, almost any other production that is sensibly budgeted has individual secretaries and people like that. All anyone has to do is look at the end credits of any movie. And when you look at that crawl while people are walking out, you see how many people it takes to make a movie. That's what they say, it takes a village, like this. And you said how many people? 12 at the most? You were able to do it, and sometimes a lot less. See? So that is amazing to me, too.
You got this little film company over here, this little independent film company, and they never stopped. They made 12 feature-length films during the middle of a pandemic that I think got a lot of people's attention.
We've had people over the years, over and over again, interviews on looking up history and stuff, and we've never seen anything get completed. So that part of the motivation is, hey, this is a guy that says what he is gonna do, does it, completes it, and we will see a final product on it.
For a young filmmaker starting out who really has the passion, they have to do what you've done if they're going to follow through and make this a career. They're going to have to, every day, just do what it takes, whatever it takes, to get the film done.
Distribution is also a real challenge when you're self-distributing, whether it's setting up the screenings or getting the films online, working with some distribution partners.
We're already seeing the type of views we're getting on some of the, like Tubi and even YouTube, 1 million views of Bastards Crossing, and we're seeing the international response we're getting for some of these films are being seen around the world.
I think it'll only grow. I hope that it'll grow. You have a wonderful following on Facebook and some of the other outlets, and the fact that you're continuing to do westerns here, Texas, it's not going to diminish it.
But you're still making westerns, so I think that you being able to tap into this thing and maybe influence it. It's certainly. I know more about westerns because of you. You know more about westerns because of what you did.
Just by calling it the 12 Westerns in 12 months, I think there's a draw there.
It showed that you can produce good quality films, very good quality films, in a short period of time with a limited budget, limited cast of folks, and turn them out. It's not quite like it was back in the 30s where you'd turn one out every couple of weeks. And some of those were okay, some of them were. Yeah, but these you could tell a story And to do that many in a short amount of time, sure, it took a year to get them produced, processed, get everything, the post-editing and that kind of thing. But to get that body of work and have it live on, that's quite an amazing feat.
The stories themselves are compelling, and when you wrap them all up, I know they're not meant to be chapters of the same book, but they kind of are, and that all of these stories are stories of struggles of humanity.
This says it's not just filmed here, it's about here. And so that is a great compliment to us.
These were like literally popped out like bunny rabbits to like make them all in 1 year, and not any year to boot, where there's a huge pandemic where everybody is either sick, doesn't want to be on set, movies aren't being made, people are too scared to go out of their home to do something. But I mean, with a courageous enough batch of people and a crazy enough bunch of people, anything can happen. And I think that you made that happen. You did exactly what you said you were going to do, and I think that people are going to look back someday and go, holy shit.
Solutions everywhere, and people were willing to make solutions for you. I mean, like we said, every obstacle was an opportunity. Well, somebody solved the problem, and it was we never hit the wall and couldn't get past something. We solved every problem, and there were quite a few.
Well, I have been on movie sets that have had at least 200 people in just the crew alone. We're talking multiple cameras instead of 1 or 2 cameras. The director, a cinema photographer, sound, and Damon, but I like a smaller crew because everybody can work more together, or I feel that they can. You don't get treated like a movie star, but you feel like family. That means a lot more.
You guys were my family for a long time. And being in the middle of nowhere isn't anything new, but having everybody else trying to be like separated and that kind of stuff.
Like outcasts.
Like outcasts. We had our friends even there. Were you laughing because I was crying? I'm always a sap, and she's like, Mom, you're fine. Get over it.
We're a family. We've really become family. I love all you guys. I love everybody I've worked with. We are truly a 12 Western family.
Well, before I started, I basically had been disabled for a few years, and so this really gave me something to do and to get involved with something that I really love doing. So it's given me a purpose and got me motivated again, and I'm hoping, and so it's really changing me, and I really appreciate the support I've gotten from Travis and everyone involved. And I was struggling, emotionally with depression, things like that, before this started, and now I'm the complete opposite of that.
The intimacy of it created friends as well as a product. Yeah, and that's how filmmaking should be, because you have so many years of your life on well, not in your case, but in many people's cases with an IMDb credit. Right. And you want to look at those 3 years of your life, and you want to remember people, because the IMDb credit is a very black and white thing, but what is the experience behind it?
Right. When we were doing Heart of the Gun, the last of the 12, we were up in Young, and I was going through my laptop cleaning out files, and I came across our contract. And the contract was that I was promised a featured background role on each of the films, and that I would be allowed to audition for any other roles that suited me, and that I would be basically a PA type crew member, do the armor stuff, provide guns. Travis, I'm gonna have to sue your ass because I wasn't a background actor in a single one of these Westerns, and that's what you promised in the contract.
The legacy will be that it was a dream, it was an idea, and it came to fruition.
To some, the question might be why Westerns in general? What do Westerns mean in America in the year 2020 when you made them? The films that you lumped in as Westerns, maybe some aren't considered conventional Westerns, but there's something about the genre that has a core audience, and I don't think you chose the project just because you knew that there were Western fans. I think the Western genre says something about where we are, and I think that might not be an answer that we have yet. We'll have to see where where the country goes and what maybe these Westerns speak back on in the time to come. It is interesting that this all happened in the middle of COVID and kind of seems like the nation was turned upside down. I think people will wonder why 12? Why 12 in 1 year? What maniac would do that to himself?
How you did it is amazing, and I think what came out of it because of the pandemic is actually better than anything you had planned before.
Every week I talk to someone new who finds out that we made 12 Westerns in 12 months, and they still can't believe that it's possible. So part of the legacy will be that it seems like an impossible task, one of those kind of Guinness World Book of Records things. How did they do this? And then I hope from there, the curiosity leads them to watch the movies, to read the book, to watch this documentary. And on top of that, I think that some of the films will stand the test of time. Movies last forever, and I know that the movies will outlive me. And I think that's what matters.
To me, one day I'll be sitting in a retirement home, watching the movies that we made and pointing at the screen. There I am. So I'm really proud of it, and I think it's going to be something that's going to live for a long time.
This is a historic event. Nobody has done this before, and I don't think I don't want to do it again. You don't want to do it again. I don't think anyone's going to try to do 12 feature films in 12 months and not have them be crap and have them all be very different. And I think it's just something that it's anyone that has doubts about what they can accomplish can just look at this and know they can just freaking do it.
It's always a what if until you try. So having been involved in being accepted and actually gotten praise from other actors and people behind the camera and whatnot made me think, well, maybe you can do something, maybe. Yeah, it changed my outlook, 100%.
Some people ask me, would you do it again? Would you make 12 movies in a year? Would you make 12 Westerns in 12 months again? I just look at them and say, are you crazy?